Should have been recorded. All right. Everybody get that?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's look at the patch tool. Anybody ever use the patch tool?
No, sir.
No? All right.
I know just like the one you have seen the video I was doing.
The patch. I think we had seen an option. I can't remember exactly. But basically, the patch tool allows you to select an area and you can either work with it as the source or the destination. So let me explain what that means. Currently, my option selected is destination, right? So if I select the dog and I patch, and I explain how you use the patch number, but if I select the dog and I patch, what's going to happen is the area that I select is going to be moved and the pixels are going to be copied and blended into my destination. Everybody sees that?
Yes, sir.
All right. If I were to select source, right? I can make the same selection, the dog, but this time when I move the patch tool, it's going to select an area of pixels on the image to replace my original selection with. Everybody sees that?
That you looking a bit better.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I'm looking better, right? Okay.
Clean.
So let me
Like more natural. There's no
right. So with the destination, what you can do is you could do it the other way. If you have the destination selected, you could select the area of pixels that you want to move to your destination or to copy over your destination and then drag it to your destination and have it blend that way.
So is there a way to like move it around with like the pen tool or like the polygonal lasso tool? Because like there's a more accurate selection
to move
the patch like
the patch selection.
Yeah.
You mean move it around after you made a selection?
No. Like make a selection
like making a clean cut on it. So.
Hold on. Say that again.
Is it possible to move it like the pen tool or like the polygonal lasso tool, or if you can make a selection and then go into the patch tool? Yeah.
All right. So you can make a selection with your lasso tools, right, or any other selection tools. Sorry. And then go to the patch tool and move that selection. Yes, you can. So in other words, if you look at it right now, I'm going to switch to my quick selection, right? And make a quick selection here. Right? With that, then I'm going to switch to my patch tool, right? I want to make it source. So I replace the dog and I want to fill that area in with alternate pixels.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, you can use any selection tool as a starting point for your selection. Really and truly, if you use the patch tool by itself, that selection tool that you're using is basically the lasso tool. Right?
Yeah, it's looking
extremely
difficult to you move around.
Right. So if you want to get a precise selection, you could use your selection tools. That's right. The thing is though, when you're using those tools, you don't necessarily want a precise selection. Let me switch to another image to explain why. Let me use the quick selection tool and let's use the gentleman this time at the back. That's because he is easy to select, I'm assuming, because of his dark color. All right. So we selected the guy exactly, right? And well, switch to the patch to source. Well, that's not the most ideal option, right? But let's just use it so I can explain. All right. See what happens? Hold on. First of all, select. So we actually use the patch tool. Notice what happens. One, the patch tool doesn't exactly cover up 100% of everything. It blends it in a manner of speaking. And secondly, because of this setting diffusion, right, and the edge of your brush and your selection, it doesn't quite take up all of the pixels that we want. So if you're using especially for the content aware tools, you never want to make an exact selection like that. But if you have an exact selection like that, you can modify it by going to select, modify, expand, and make it a little bit bigger. In that case, I want to expand it by, say, 10 pixels, right? So my selection got a little bit bigger, right? And again, a bad option, but I'm just going to use the patch to fill in that area. See, it's a little better. You're not seeing the edges, even though if we really look closely, we can still make out the shape of the man where, well, the patch tool wasn't the most ideal thing to use, right? But we got it up. So, that is basically your patch tool in a nutshell. Any questions?
So you have to rasterize the image.
Well, we're talking about editing pixels. So yes, we're talking about a rasterized image, not a smart object. Yeah, because on a smart object, we cannot change the pixels like we're doing now. All right. We can paint over it in a new layer, but we cannot change the pixels on the layer like we're doing now. So actually what we're doing here, even though it's not really destroying the image, it is not a, it is a destructive editing technique. All right, which is why you notice me constantly duplicating my background layer and working with the duplicate copy so I can always easily come back to my original background layer. Okay? Any questions on that? All right. Let me show you the other content aware option that is probably the easiest option to use, right? And in the event you get asked a content aware question in the exam, that may be the best option. You would either use this spot healing brush for content aware option, I believe, or you would use the content aware fill, which we're going to do right now. So again, I'm going to give you guys the opportunity to pick an object on that image, any object that we're going to remove.
About the large lady above the kids.
The what?
The lady stooping down above the kids, the two kids.
This one right now. Okay. So the technique that we're going to use to remove her is called the content aware fill. All right. And again, like most of the content aware tools, you start by making a selection. What tool you use is up to you. You could use the Lasso tool or any other selection tools, right? But you essentially select the area that you want to fill using the content aware method. All right. And then it's easy. We go to edit, fill, and normally our fill dialog box looks like this. Contents black, right? And if we fill it, it's just gonna fill in our selection area black. But one of the options we have here is content aware. We select content aware, right? We can leave the options at the default and just select OK. It will, using the pixels around the lady, intelligently remove her from the image. This is the original, and this is the...
That's clean, no?
Yeah. Let's do another piece. Let's do the girl in front with the polka dot, the red polka dot, the little girl, right? So we make a selection. We get pretty close to the edges, but not exact edge, right? And we go edit. Sorry, hold on, wrong layer. All right. We go edit, fill, content aware fill. Okay.
You lagging too?
Excuse me? I lagging?
On his
lagging.
end, fine.
Yeah.
Sorry. Let me take it again. So we're going to try and remove this girl here, making our selection. All right. And we're using content aware fill. So we go to the edit menu, edit, fill, or we actually have the content aware fill right here. All right. So let's just do that option. This option gives you a bit more flexibility, right? You can actually adjust your sampling area, adjust your, well, the opacity of your viewing and how the output is going to look. Gonna click OK. Right. Now notice what happens. Someone, I think you were asking about if the layer had to be rasterized. In this case, right, I outputted the edit to a new layer. So if this was a smart object, then the layer would simply be above it, filling in the object, but we would not have made that change to the smart object itself. Okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. So everyone understand the content of our film?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like the best so far.
It probably is, yeah. Okay. Any questions? Sorry. Any questions so far?
So basically, you would use different thing like the content field or whatever, based on the image you edit in.
Based on the image you edit in, the composition of the image, you would need to determine which tool is best. Sometimes the content aware fill is the best for things like that. At other times, the content aware fill is not the most ideal tool. You would have to use the clone stamp or the patch tool or the healing brush. You would need to determine that based on what you're looking at.
Okay.
All right. The last content aware tool we're gonna go through is the content aware move tool, and that is a straightforward tool. It allows you to select an object and move them to another part of the image using a content aware, using the content aware option. All right. So we simply move the object and it will blend the pixels as best it can. Straightforward enough, right? Yes, no?
Yes, sir.
All right. Any questions on any of these tools?
Oh, for me, it's practice reality on it.
All right.
Same.
Let's look at this image. This is something that you might encounter in your career as a graphic designer. An old image, and you get a request to restore that image. All right? That is what I want you guys to do for me for homework. Yeah? So we still have the brochure working on, but I'm going to send that file for you guys. Yeah? And I want you guys to patch it up for me for homework. Anybody think they're gonna have difficulty with that? Do you need me to show you how we go about doing that before you start trying, or you just want to jump into it and we'll look at it in the next class?
So not all, but it's sort of like
Oh, a little example.
Yeah. Okay, the example I'm gonna show you is using the clone stamp tool, right? Now, because the clone stamp tool is the most difficult tool, right? You can figure out the healing brush and the spot healing brush on your own if you want to use that. But the clone stamp tool is the one that was in Photoshop from the early days, right? And is the one that you will have to fall back to when all else fails. All right, so let me demonstrate using that. Let me start with the big part of the forehead, right? First, gonna take a sample, so Alt and click. I think this area can be used to patch up this area pretty good. So I'm just going to make a few clicks. Notice I copied that black dot from here up there as well, right? Notice that? But anyway, that's not too much of an issue. I'll come back and fix that. Pick a different sample. A different sample now. So Alt and click here and fix up this part. Yeah. All right. Let's take out that black spot on his head. Let's take out that black spot on his nose. Now let's deal with that line above the eye there. again, is the forehead. Is one of the easy options. We can just use the clone stamp and fill it in. Now, one of the things that I want you to consider is that I'm currently using the clone stamp with an opacity of 100, which means when I clone and I put down, it's covering the area that I put it onto entirely. All right, but look at this. Let's say I drop the opacity to 50, right? That means if I clone somewhere, let's do this part of his face here, right? If I clone somewhere and I put it down, it's only going to put down 50% of the pixels. I'm going to still see 50% of the blemish, right? Now, that comes in handy when you don't want to cover up an area entirely, but you just want to put some pixels, right? Or give a hint of the color. So if I want to completely cover this area, rather than just making a single click, I'm going to have to click multiple times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And this is what it looks like. Right? But
And it's still looking off for
it looks off because what happened is it don't put 100%. It put 50%, then another 50%, then another 50%, then another 50%. So it got darker in areas and it got blurrier in other areas. Right? Because I have a soft brush. So imagine it's putting 50%, but it's fading it out to the edge. You're gonna
so if you use a hard brush with 50%, what would it do?
A hard brush with 50%. Let's do it on another side. You never really want to use a hard brush when you want to blend images, because let's continue along there of his image. If I click here and I try going here, single click. Well, let me zoom in. You can see it. Let me do the hard edge at 100% so you can see it. So here, hard edge, 100%. See what it looks like?
Yeah.
You can actually see the circle.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why when we're doing those things, we usually want a soft edge so it feathers out as it goes to the edge, so you never see where the edge is. All right? Let me see if I can repair the little area. It's a little bit dark, but yeah. Come back and drop 100%.
A good question. Yeah.
Go ahead. Ask a question.
When you click in it, when you have to click on the mouse and press Alt at the same time to select it, to select the.
Make a sample. So let's say, for instance, I wanted to sample. Let's go to the edge of his ear. Let's go a little smaller. Now, as we're looking at more detail, it means I have to make my brush smaller and smaller to not overlap or go beyond my boundaries, all right? So I'm gonna try and fix this little area of the hair there, because I can see a defined line where I know that's my edge. So I press Alt. Notice the cursor changes to the crosshair, and I simply click once to take a sample. One click. Now you can see the sample is moving along with my cursor. It's actually showing me the area that I sample and what it's gonna look like when I drop it in any particular area. So I'm gonna put it down right here because we can see it sort of makes itself on the edge here. I'm gonna click here, one single click. Notice it closes it up. And because it's aligned, I can actually just go across a bit and trust that my cursor will follow me as we move across different colored areas of the image. So I can actually, now I'm off the edge, I'm in the background, and I'm just filling up the area. And you can see where it's sampling by the crosshair directly above the stamp tool. Everybody seen it?
Yes, sir.
All right. So far we've done this. It was like this. We fixed a couple lines. And they're quick fixes, but you get the idea. Let me look at one more area.
One last question.
Go ahead.
Every time you when you make a selection, now the tool.
You mean when you take a sample?
We'll log in again.
You mean when you take a sample?
The clone tool.
Right. So
what
what
automatically make a layer for you, or you have to make your own layer?
No, hold on. You're not making a selection of the clone tool. What you're doing is taking a sample. You're saying that I like those pixels here. Like let's do the eye. I like those pixels here. They look like an eye, right? So I sample, Alt and click to sample the eye. Now, because we're dealing with pixels, we simply just painting on the layer. So you see my background copy layer there? I duplicated my background layer so I have the background copy to work with. And I'm actually putting down that object on the background copy layer. So it's not creating a new layer for me. I am just painting, meaning I am actually destroying the current layer by changing the pixels in a way that I cannot go back on it.
Okay, so you duplicate the layer to work with it. All right.
That is why I duplicate the layer to work with it.
Yeah.
Now you could have not duplicated the layer. For instance, if let's say I want to work with that same object, right? I can create a new layer. So I have a blank layer on top, right? Now I'm going to change my sample from current layer, because my current layer doesn't have any pixels, right? To current and below. I can either do current and below or all layers. Let's do current and below. So it will sample everything from my layer 1, but also everything below it. And I can clone now. So I'm going to try and fix this part of the hair, right? Sorry. This part of the hair here. Because again, we have the precise angles that we can see. So I'm going to Alt and click to take a sample. Now notice the angle just doesn't work right here. So I'm going to try another sample, try on this side. That's better, right? But notice this time I'm not cloning on my background copy layer. I'm actually cloning on my layer 1. So that would be a non-destructive clone, because my background copy layer is actually not being edited. I am actually cloning on my layer 1, which is a new layer. So we can see my edit like this. That's what that little clone piece look like. So
okay.
The original, the clone piece with the image looks like this. If I remove the cloned layer, you see that. So it's actually over it. So you can work on the layer, or you can work in a new layer and sample current and below or all layers, and that would work as well. All right.
Yes, I got that.
Okay. Any other questions? I think we basically covered the major parts of that. Any questions with any of the image editing tools? We looked at today spot healing brush, patch, content aware move, and content aware fill. Oh, and also the clone stamp. Right? Anybody have any issues with any of those?
Probably after I test it out on the picture.
All right.
I don't know.
Well, you can look at some of the images that I had for you in the event we had gotten to here. Look at this one. If we wanted to remove the man on the beach, what would be a good tool?
Clone.
The clone will work, but the clone would give us a bit more work. Yeah, because the image is kind of clean all around, but yeah, we could use the clone. The clone stamp tool will almost always work for image editing, because you essentially paint in with different parts of the image. So yeah, we could use the clone stamp tool, but we pay attention to our edges, right?
Easily.
Now I cannot clone from that edge again, because I'm gonna start cloning the dog here, as you can see. So I'm going to take a different sample, step back. I'm going to take a sample from this side of the image. Right, from this side of the image, Alt click, and continue going across. And again, I'm actually doing that on my image. You don't necessarily want to do it on the image if you want to do it non-destructively. But I showed you how you can do it otherwise, right? Just create a new layer and use current and below and stamp onto your new layer only. That way you don't edit your original. So simple. Can you tell there was a man there at all? Well, the footprint.
Well, you have the prints there.
Yeah, the footprints. I didn't even say that. But anyway, let's use a different tool for that.
Never know something past on the beach.
Jump in.
And you just stop there. Look, I'm gonna make a selection, and I'm gonna go edit content aware fill. Okay. I don't want to output to a new layer, I want to output to current layer. There we go. Voila. No footstep.
Easy.
Right?
So Would it be okay in saying that brighter images work better with those tools? Since, or does it depend?
Brighter images work better because you can see the edges clearer, and because the edges might be more defined. But sometimes, for instance, this one, the image is pretty bright, but their colors sort of blend with the sand in a way that can be troublesome. It's still pretty good quality, so it will work. But it's not really the brightness. It's the definition of the image, rather.
I see.
But of course, a brighter image is more well-defined. You can see the detail, right? And so Photoshop will be able to make out those details as well, right? So you get a better result.
All right.
Sometimes though, your result can be unexpected. Let me give you a quick example. So I'm going to attempt to remove this girl on the beach, but leave the boy. Let's see if I go edit. Let's do fill and content aware, okay. Let's see what happens. Okay, that was pretty good.
Really?
I was actually trying to get Photoshop to glitch for it to see. Let me see if I can make it happen. Let's go get edit fill. Content aware, okay. It's not working out exactly as I had imagined.
It's giving you a good job instead of a bad job.
Right, exactly. It's doing a good job.
Reliable.
Let me open up another image, okay? I just want to show you guys what happens when it fails. So give me a minute. Let me try and find something. Sort by type. Okay, I actually had a. Oh, there we go. There we go.
Hello?
Hey, what's up?
All the time they talking onto my mic now. I wasn't working.
No.
No wonder you wasn't here. I checking about ignore me tonight.
But that's good. You was focused. You was in there.
Sorry about that. Let me go there.
All right. Okay. Let's look at this image, right? I'm going to make a selection with it and attempt to remove the photographer using the content aware fill, right? Edit fill. I'm trying to get Photoshop to actually do a bad job for me.
Well, that is what I was trying to. That's that. Well.
All right. You guys see this?
That's
an example of a bad job. You see that, right? Let's go again. Edit fill.
Technically, that wasn't a bad job. But...
it wasn't bad, but it changed the image in a way that it wasn't natural. It didn't represent what was actually there. and it was something that you could see clearly, right? Let me use a rectangular marker to make.
But you would notice it if you saw the image for the first time, though.
No, you would not. That's again because Photoshop does a good job. But then I'm just showing you an example of what it does.
No, actually, I was quite shocked the previous image actually did a good job.
With the two, yeah.
The one on the beach. I was quite shocked. I wanted to explain because I didn't see you explain exactly what Photoshop is doing with content aware. And what is actually being done is the borderline that is there. Photoshop is reading the colors of the colors around that borderline and in the area. So what happens if you try and take out the man which was next to the girl? What Photoshop was supposed to do was to get piece of the girl.
That's not what it's supposed to do.
But for some reason, I'm very shocked they didn't do that.
Well, actually,
but yeah.
What it was supposed to do is what it did.
It was supposed to take out a bunch of pieces of mamsel and put it in Mr. Place.
But what happened is now, the content aware uses artificial intelligence to sort of guess what you want to do. And it can sort of figure that that is another object. I
think it's the quality of the picture. The picture is is good quality. So maybe that's
quality of the picture. That's why I said it's not necessarily the composure of the image, whether it's light or dark, but whether the quality is good enough for it to make out where objects start and stop. All right. So GK, you did a good job explaining the content aware field. Basically, it does use pixels from around the area that you fill in to intelligently replace them and blend it into the image. All right.
Basically, yeah.
Any questions on any of those tools? We have less than a minute. I just realized that. No? All right. Let's take 5 minutes. We'll come back and then we'll talk about those brochures, okay?
Just practice.
Yeah. We practice brochures. We'll talk about it. So
I said that there because shit.
That's fine, man. That's fine. We'll come.
And yeah.
We'll come out in America. They're gonna cut off anyway.